Now that was top class club rugby. Is that Leinster versus Munster, which I've just watched in the URC play out in front of 50,000 fans at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, is that the biggest rivalry in domestic rugby worldwide? Tell me in the comments, what are the other rivalries that contend with that one? Because last weekend in the English Premiership, I was watching Harlequins versus Saracens, Leicester versus Northampton, Bath versus Gloucester. They're all great, but there was an extra edge in this match in Dublin between these two great teams. And, you know, bearing in mind the last couple of videos on the channel have been about how do we grow domestic rugby, there was no worries about this fixture. There was everything on the line. To the point that really you got the sense that it was less about points in the URC and it was more about bragging rights, doing it for the fans, the history, the emotion. Because Munster, you know, in a lot of cases, a team with a losing bonus point right on their own try line at the end of a game might have just thought, you know, let's take the 1 point and not risk losing it. Munster were having none of that, and they were trying to win the game right to the end. As it was a victory for Leinster, narrowly. And yeah, lots to talk about, particularly, like I say, in the context of club rugby and domestic rugby. And that was everything that club rugby can be. It was absolutely brilliant. And lots to talk about with you know, the Irish national team looking ahead to the Six Nations, as we look ahead to the Heineken Champions Cup and how these teams will get on. But yeah, like I say, in the comments, what are the biggest rivalries in domestic rugby? And you'll have a better idea if you're from, I don't know, from a nation around the world, what the big matches you most look forward to are. I'd love to know. Because as it stands, I think Leinster v Munster might be the biggest, you know. There was extra edge in this one as well after the URC semi-final last year when Leinster, if you remember, they rested a load of their players because they had the Champions Cup final against La Rochelle the following week. That backfired because they lost to Munster at the Aviva Stadium. And there was also a special day in lots. Well, firstly, let's take a look at the teams, because when I looked at the lineups, I thought this was only going one way, and it might be a comfortable win for Leinster because they weren't making that mistake this time. They went with a pretty full-blooded team, and when you compare the Munster and Leinster sides, I mean, really good players on both teams, but if you had to make a combined team out of both of them, you'd probably take only Tadhg Beirne from Munster's pack, and maybe only Jack Crowley from Munster's backline. Potentially one of their wingers as well. But generally speaking, that Leinster team is just Irish international right through. No Peter O'Mahony for Munster in this one. And there was no James Lowe and one or two others for Munster. But other than that, pretty much full strength. Johnny Sexton turned up. Very nice Canada Goose jacket he was wearing as well, which he was paraded around the Aviva Stadium before the match. A shame for Ross Byrne, the man wearing 10 for Leinster, who'll be keen to fill Johnny Sexton's boots. He had to go off quite early in this match. For Munster, it was a special night for Stephen Archer, who became the province's most capped player. 269 appearances for Stephen Archer. And get this for a stat. Over the last 12 years of playing for Munster, he has averaged 21 games a season across that 12 years, which is a phenomenal effort front row, and he was a big part of them winning the URC last year. So the game itself got off to an absolutely flying start. Munster out of the blocks, and Craig Casey scoring a brilliant try. Simon Zebo back, his first start since March, and they got off to a great start. Like I say, Ross Byrne going off early was a blow, but more on Kieran Frawley and Jack Crowley, and also Ross Byrne and that whole hunt for the Irish 10 jersey. More on that towards the end of the video, because I've got some thoughts having seen some of the contenders in action today. Munster were a little bit wasteful, should have gone 2 scores up, but they got a penalty to put them 10-0 up. And then Leinster finally clicked into gear after 20 minutes. There was a yellow card for Rory Scannell. Jamison Gibson Park, tell you what, that guy's got some wheels. And then they followed it up with a burst from Dan Sheehan to score the try. Is Dan Sheehan the best Leinster product? I'm trying to think. He might be the best player to have been produced by Leinster. Oh, a big statement this. I was going to say since Johnny Sexton and Brian O'Driscoll. I think I might put him in that higher regard, you know. I mean, Caelan Doris was immense as well, so he's another one. They've got a few contenders for that crown, but Dan Sheehan is a very, very special player, isn't he? He was again tonight. So yeah, that gave Leinster, was it 14-10 at half-time? Jordan Lama, eventually his try took them out to an 8-point lead with the conversion, and that you thought had killed the game off, but Jack Crowley, a couple of pens from him, kept Munster in the game, and they could have won it towards the end, but Leinster managed to see it out. And on to some of the players. Jack Crowley really, really impressed me. And in the hunt for that Irish 10 jersey, yeah, I said I'd talk about this. So Johnny Sexton's gone. A generational player, absolute legend, can't be replaced. There's a few people that are trying to do that job. Ross Byrne looked like the heir apparent for his province and for Ireland, and he's been usurped by Jack Crowley in the green jersey, you feel. Jack Crowley's above him in the pecking order. Ross Byrne had an injury, but now Ross Byrne was back, and this was a big night for him. Big, big night. Johnny Sexton was being paraded in front of the crowd. It was a home crowd, 50,000, and he's up against his big contender for the Ireland number 10 jersey. Ross Byrne goes off injured. On comes Kieran Frawley, and maybe this is the discussion about who should be wearing the 10 jersey, because I have to say, and Ross Byrne will be back. Hope his injury's not too serious, and I hope he will be back and can prove himself. But I was very impressed with Kieran Frawley. He looks a little bit more like your ball-in-hand fly half, whereas Jack Crowley, kind of an all-round game, he can put the boot through the ball and get his team in the right positions. And it felt a little bit like Leinster could have done with that at times today. And maybe Kieran Frawley can develop that part of his game. I think Jack Crowley is the number one. I think Kieran Frawley, I don't know, maybe his kicking game isn't rounded enough, but he impressed me to the point that I was thinking maybe he's the number two. They've got some choices anyway. We'll see how that one plays out. There's some big games coming up. You've got the more games against Ulster, all the Irish provinces playing each other in the build-up to Christmas, and those Champions Cup matches as well. So that's what Andy Farrell will be watching very, very carefully. In terms of other players that were impressive tonight, well, how about if you're looking at the Six Nations squad and a new face that could come into things? I mean, the Irish back row is very settled, lots of top players, and it's not like there's anyone moving on, but I was impressed by Josh Hodnett for Munster tonight. The breakdown was a bit of a mess, and a part of that was because Josh Hodnett was just causing chaos. So possibly the Munster 7 could get in the mix, but I have to say, in terms of people that weren't the first choice at the World Cup for Ireland and probably aren't first choice at the moment, you would think Jack Conan was absolutely massive. He was rampaging, wearing the 6 jersey tonight with Caelan Doris at number 8. And Jack Conan just, like your archetypical blindside flanker, like Peter Steph Toy in the World Cup final, just smashing people, running hard, hitting hard. And that's what Jack Conan did for 80 minutes. He was a deserved man of the match tonight. And a big statement from him if he can carry that form forward. Who else? Well, so Leinster named 2 co-captains in Gary Ringrose and James Ryan. Again, these 2 people taking over the reins from Johnny Sexton. Now, when Johnny Sexton was out last season, James Ryan was the captain, but Leo Cullens decided to give kind of both of them the captaincy. I'm assuming that's until one of them rises to the top and takes the mantle themselves. I don't know. I'm never convinced by this sharing of the captaincy. Like in some sports, like in football, you kind of don't think captaincy really matters that much. You're just putting on an armband. But the role of a captain in rugby union as a focal point for the team through training, through matches, the last word before when you're in the changing room, geeing the guys up, and a close link. You'd have a lot of one-to-one meetings with the coach. I think the rugby captain, and more importantly, on the pitch talking to the referee, I think the captain's a much more important role. I don't know if the captaincy had any impact on this from Gary Ringrose's point of view, but I didn't think he was quite as effective as he normally is. He didn't have his best night at outside centre. And normally the one thing you say about Gary Ringrose is he just makes good decisions all the time. He made some poor decisions defensively, I have to say. He always flies up in defence. That's kind of his role in the Leinster system, and Ireland to a degree. But he made quite a few bad reads tonight. I don't know if the captaincy had any part of that. I think it's maybe more naturally James Ryan, or actually, maybe it's someone completely different. Maybe it's neither of them. But that's another one, just to stick a pin in. Any thoughts you've got on that in the comments? And yeah, that was the game. It was an absolute cracker. And yeah, if there's rugby like that served up every week, I will watch any domestic rugby game that is like that, because the two teams will get better and can get better. It was a little scrappy at times, but sometimes the quality is not there, but the intensity and the atmosphere was absolutely awesome. So loved it. And yeah, that's how I want to spend Saturday nights. Which is, maybe you might think it's a sad thing to say, but I meant it. Is there any more rugby on now? There's probably some top 14 I can go and watch, or NFL. Anyway, hopefully I've earned your subscription on the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps spread the word. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. And give me your comments. Tell me what you reckon. And I'll see you on the next video.